Good evening, Robert Scribbler, and welcome to another episode of Helkey. In this episode, I am going to read for you the ninth chapter. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some original artwork that I've created for this episode. This is a overhead view of Marienkirche, or St. Mary's Church in Berlin. It is the location where much of the action occurs in this chapter, as well as with the next chapter, chapter 10. This is not a historically accurate representation. It is instead a representation for my fiction work. Although Marienkirche is based on a real church in Berlin. So without further ado, here is Helkey 9, St. Mary's Healing Angel. Mori clenches his jaw in worry as Beatrice leans against him. Together they hobble away from Furzabank, even as police cars rush in, lights flashing, sirens wailing. She's putting on a brave face, but God only knows what kind of poison Ivan as Demon Wolf injected into her with that bite. Ivan, meanwhile, is still following them like a lost puppy. Thankfully, the Ignaris curse on Mori's leather jacket, now draped over Ivan, is obscuring him as well. They're not drawing much more than the odd, confused glance. Cops rushing to the scene give them little notice. Mori focuses for a moment on Ivan. He seems sure of himself. The shock is wearing off, and Mori imagines infernal pistons starting to fire up again behind the Russian's eyes. Fucking great. Beatrice's left legging, meanwhile, is now red and black with blood and poison. 3 tooth-shaped serrations have ripped through the fabric, making a mess of the flesh beneath. It continuously wells blood. At least it's not spurting. Wait a minute, he says to Beatrice after they've moved about a half block on and edged into a side street. Already Ignaris has handled most onlookers. They've forgotten the odd little trio and are staring instead at the light show still going on at the top of Furzabank HQ. Beat cops run past them on foot with barely a second glance. A helicopter flies over them, but trains its spotlight on the damaged skyscraper. The broken glass glitters with all the various lights. Its jagged edge looks a lot like an open maw to Mori. Give me your pouch. Beatrice fumbles at her belt and unhooks a pouch made of some soft yet durable material from her homeworld. She pushes it toward Mori. He quickly rummages through it, pushing aside an intricate silver pen, a small living bulb filled with flickering lights, and a miniaturized book of curses, to produce a maxi pad and a handful of green moss. In a few swift motions, he unwraps the pad, presses the moss into Beatrice's wound cavity, and seals the maxi pad over top. She makes a little noise of pain, but nods in appreciation. The Kendra moss has already started to take the edge off. The stuff is heaven sent, literally. It'll help dull the pain while slowing the bleeding and drawing away some of the poison. Not that it's a cure, but it will buy them some time. Good idea, she says, cracking a waifish half-smile as she adds her own pressure to the makeshift bandage. Aren't you forgetting something? She nods at his weapon. He's still getting odd looks from people on the street. Ignaris is dealing with it, kinda, but better not attract too much damn attention. He pushes a button on the rifle's handguard. There is a whirring as it does its dance back to briefcase mode. They start walking again. Mori has his phone out. He is calling his special Uber driver, Stefan, even as he watches Ivan out of the corner of his eye. The guy is obviously starting to get spun up, his eyes growing big at first and then narrowing to slits as his pupils roam around. Mori helps Beatrice sit down on a nearby bench. Stefan is 3 minutes away. Ivan suddenly springs up and lunges to make a run for it. Jeez, oh crap! But Mori expected something like this. His hand shoots out and grabs Ivan by the collar. The Russian does a little spin and lands on his butt. "Let me go. I am kidnapped," Ivan shouts as he kicks and grabs at Mori's hand. This is enough to attract the unwanted stares of a few puzzled onlookers. They quickly lose interest, as Ignorus throws them off the scent. "Like hell you are. We just saved your ass up there. Without us, you'd still be 100% woofy. Hell, you'd probably be nom-nomming on those guards right now." Mori points to the light still searching the wreckage of the Bank HQ executive water closet. He thinks about showing Ivan his undercover badge and reading him his rights, but it's not time to play that card yet. Hell, he isn't even sure the electronic surveillance suite running in his briefcase collected enough to book old Ivan. Almost certainly, almost. But there was such a thing as standard of proof after all. Bank is a hive for shady and probably illegal deals. Ivan was high up in that corrupt pecking order. Mori forces himself to take the diplomatic route. "But you're safe now. More important, they're safe from you. So shut the fuck up." "That was real?" Ivan says, still kicking a bit, but clearly giving up for now. Dazed disbelief shows plainly on what must be one of the best natural poker faces in all the worlds. Ivan looks up at the broken glass atop the tower, where he lorded over everyone in the most disgusting manner. Mori can barely imagine what the guy is thinking. He's a real piece of work, definitely sociopathic, so he'll be more trouble later, lots of damn trouble, but Mori figures he can at least put an effort in to delay the inevitable. "Look, you can come with us, and I'll explain everything after I get help for my wife here. You know, the one you just fucking took a bite out of." "Da, okay. So where are you taking me?" Ivan says, somewhat mollified if still suspicious. Damn, this guy still has some of Beatrice's blood on his teeth. He coldly considers Mori through those narrowed eyes. Mori stifles the urge to punch him. "We're off to St. Mary's Church, Marienkirch. We have a friend there, Sadie, who has the skills it takes to treat the kind of unnatural wound you inflicted on Beatrice." Ivan grunts, but seems satisfied for now. A normal person would have apologized for what happened to Beatrice, sure. The demon took control when it possessed him, dominated him, and drove him to bite her. But Mori is willing to bet serious money Ivan didn't fight too hard against it. Sick fucker probably enjoyed it on some level. Ivan nods in his calculating and still somewhat feral manner. The quid pro quo game is working, if only temporarily. Time in exchange for information. A transactional arrangement. Back to the kind of bullshit game this bloodsucker understands. Mori gets a momentary sense that Ivan's still a demon wolf who's staring at him over slavering jaws, contemplating. Beatrice waves a hand. "Yeah, about that treatment. I'm starting to get cold. My sight darkens. Soon, I think I won't be able to see a thing." 10 minutes, Bea," Mori replies. "You're tough as nails. I know you can make it." "She'd better make it, or I'll kill that fucking Ivan, Asmodeus baiting or no." The black Tesla Model X arrives with a futuristic whir. Its left X-wing door pops open. Mori gives Ivan a nudge. "You first," he says. Ivan shrugs, stands up, and slides into the Tesla. Mori helps Beatrice up, takes the middle seat, and lets her flop down beside him. Stefan watches them through the rearview mirror. Once they're all in, he guns it. The smooth and soundless acceleration pushes them back into their seats with pure G-force. Stefan already knows where to go. Mori gave him the info by text. He's also a master driver. Buildings blur by. The chaos surrounding Bank shrinks from view. "You got water?" Mori asks. Stefan pops the center console and tosses back a cold bottle of Voss. Mori cracks it open and hands it to Beatrice. She grabs it with her dexterous hands and takes measured sips. She's keeping it together, but just barely. What were those things? Ivan's cool look is puzzled. Mori can tell he's torn up about asking the question, like admitting he doesn't know something somehow takes life points away from him. Mori allows himself a moment to enjoy the Russian's confusion. You mean the Pride Eaters? Yeah, those guys are a real piece of work, demons. And Ivan, here's the kicker. You summoned them. Ivan purses his lips at the new information. Pride Eater? Mori can tell he's struggling to believe it. But how did I summon? Well, those guys absolutely love to slurp up some pride. And you, when you do your thing every day on the golden throne on top of the world, well, that is like a gourmet meal to them. Mori stifles a laugh. It shouldn't be funny. He looks down at Beatrice's leg. The bleeding has slowed. Good. He turns back to Ivan. Look, I told you I'd fill you in on everything after I get Beatrice some help. So just shut up for now, got it? Ivan's hearing what I'm saying, but it's clear it's not completely registering yet. He's getting a glimpse of the world as is, and it's not at all adding up to what he thought it was. For someone like Ivan, that's a really tough thing to process. Of course, he wasn't much good at processing normal reality either, so no surprise there. The Tesla rumbles to a halt in front of St. Mary's Church as it passes over cobbles. Mori is greeted with red brickwork, Gothic architecture, and lights twinkling through stained glass windows. A stern statue of Martin Luther glares at him from atop a marble pedestal. I'm calling Sadie now, Stefan says, picking up his cell. Mori reaches out to give his shoulder a pat. Good man. The Tesla's X-wing door is already open. Mori is helping Beatrice stumble out of the Tesla and across the stones. Ivan reluctantly stands to follow. They make their way to the red oak doors. It's dark, but the church is well lit, and its striking red appearance seems somewhat ominous to Mori. Stefan gives a thumbs up from the Tesla, then drives off. A couple seconds later, there is a rustling at the door. It squeaks open. Behind the door is a diminutive black-skinned woman wearing a multicolored dress and shawl. Her face beams as she ushers them into an enormous cathedral area walled in white with flying buttresses swooping up overhead. There is a warm and comforting energy surrounding her. She is from Beatrice's home, and like Beatrice, she's got the whole angel mojo going on. Mori imagines her as some ancient and noble Libyan queen straight out of antiquity. Come in, allow me, she says as she scoops up Beatrice's other arm, helping the wounded angel girl limp across the flagstones. Stefan got word to me just a little while ago. I've made ready for you in the basement. Now, let's keep off that leg, dear. Beatrice grunts in reply. Thanks, Sadie. Mori has Beatrice's other arm. Between him and Sadie, they're practically carrying Beatrice. They make their way to a spiral stone stairway and descend. Ivan follows, glancing around like he's on tour. They go down a floor, cut through a hallway covered in flagstones. They pass a crypt of some old dead German general, turn right, and enter a doorway. Inside is a whole other world. Bulbs of dancing lights, like the small one in Beatrice's purse, are in the corners, providing gentle light. Their living green fronds have sweetened the air, made it clean, more wholesome. A stronger blue-white light shines from a crystal mounted on top of a candle holder beside a cot. To Mori, this light feels kinder than earthly illumination. His skin drinks it up as if its touch provides sustenance. Somewhere above, someone's playing organ music, adding to the whole celestial vibe of the place. Beside the cot is a table with more kindra moss, a basin of water, some surgical implements, and various sterile bandages. They rest Beatrice upon the bed. She's gone white. Her lips and fingertips are starting to turn blue, but her green eyes are still moving. She lets out a sigh of relief as that heavenly glow touches her and takes a deep breath of the good air. Ivan glances about with a bemused look on his face. Mori notes Ivan's confused expression. "You ain't seen nothing yet, bud." "I'm sorry for the informalities, Mori, but I've got no time to waste," Sadie says as she lifts a set of surgical scissors and cuts away a chunk of Beatrice's legging. She pulls off their makeshift bandage and observes the wound. Tisk tisk. Someone has been a very bad boy. She glances at Ivan. "Demon possession, I take it?" "Yeah, Sadie." Mori does his best not to sound too reverential. "But this is the most famous among mages, Sadie Dextera, after all." He glances at Ivan, reminding himself he can't talk too freely in front of Asmodeus's chosen, even if he didn't know shit for now. There were pride eaters in the Hellgate. One of them had already tethered Ivan, forced him to take the form of the Wolf of Wrath. He bit Beatrice. Sadie's kind but sharp eyes focus intensely upon him. "Good thing it wasn't you he bit. Wouldn't have made it back here." "That's why Beatrice does the close work. I'm too fragile for it." Maury's not shy about it. Angels like Beatrice are much tougher than humans like him. Though Maury knows a few magical tricks for staying alive if poisoned, he sure as hell doesn't want to test Sadie's theory. Sadie picks up the crystal atop the candle holder. She holds it over Beatrice's wound, waving a hand above the crystal as she blows it. The light beaming from the crystal seems to swirl with Sadie's exhalation. Its beams flow more brightly even as they extend and undulate, forming fingers that reach down to Beatrice's wound. They touch her flesh gently, probing with slow care into her torn and wounded tissue. Sadie's eyes are closed now, but Mori knows she can keenly sense what she's doing through her light fingers. She is far defter than an earthly surgeon. Arching her back, she raises one hand and curls her fingers into a crescent. The fingers of light mimic the gesture. "Venenum sa," she incants. The light fingers probe into Beatrice's body. Mori can see them moving beneath her skin. They travel up her leg, into her torso, around her hearts, through her shoulders, up her neck, and beneath her eyes. All of it is glowing through her skin and clothes. Her eyes shine with healing radiance. Darkness pulses down the light fingers. It's the venom, drawn out drop by drop. Sadie holds out a silver basin to catch it. The black stuff hisses as it pools in the container. After about 20 seconds, the venom is all removed. Sadie carefully places the basin on her table. Then she starts to move her fingers in a kneading gesture. The light fingers again mirror her motions. "Sana carnis," she chants, as her second curse begins to knit Beatrice's flesh back together. The light fingers have moved back to her leg now. They gather into a tangle of flowing blue and white light. Sadie molds the light into various shapes. It steadily shrinks layer by layer. And as it withdraws, it leaves behind pink, perfect flesh, unbroken skin, pulling back slowly into 3 silver round marks where Ivan's teeth struck. But even these scars are faded and hard to see now. With Beatrice's regenerative capacity, such slight marks will be gone in a month or so. Mori lets out a sigh of relief. He didn't realize he was holding his breath. Sadie drops her hand, inspects Beatrice's leg with a critical eye, then turns to her table. She picks up a syringe, pops the cap, and injects some serum into Beatrice. "For the tetanus and other crud that might have gotten into his wolf mouth," she says with a glance toward Ivan. She then picks up a second syringe and makes a gesture for Mori to roll up his sleeve. "What the hell?" he says. He's already rolling his shirt up. He sure as hell knows better than to cross Sadie. "It's your SARS-CoV-5 vaccination. You were due and it just arrived. I thought, what better time than now?" Shady injects the vaccine into Mori's arm. He's used to it. Doesn't even flinch. Beatrice starts to sit up, but Sadie stops her. "No, no. Time for you to take a little nap. You need to rest to recover from your trauma. I know you're a tough girl. Now let's make sure it stays that way." Beatrice is starting to open her mouth to protest, but Sadie just lifts her hand and chants, "Somnos." Beatrice's head falls back onto the pillow with a flump. She's out like a light. "That was... I don't... It was spectacular." Ivan is having trouble finding words to describe the second supernatural event he's witnessed in a single night. "Yeah, that's our Sadie. Pretty damn amazing. Good thing, too," Mori says as he lowers his brows at Ivan. The Russian gets the look and holds his hands up in a calming gesture. Mori just plows on by. "So I told you I'd explain. Now that Beatrice is safe, you, Sadie, and I are going to have a talk. It'll probably be the most important talk you've ever had in your slime and sludge film life, so listen up good. It's a literal come-to-Jesus moment." Ivan shrugs in a non-committal way. "Yes, you owe me explanation." Mori is damn sure he doesn't owe Ivan squat. He lets it slide and turns to Sadie. "My good lady, is Beatrice safe resting here?" "Yes, dear. You can be assured that all the necessary protections have been placed. There are watchful friends here to help, to protect." She looks at Beatrice. She is stable now and quite strong. She turns her sharp eyes to Ivan. "I'm eager to talk with you, Ivan the Wolf. We have much to discuss." Mori almost feels sorry for the bastard. Almost. And that concludes Helkey Chapter 9. Thank you for joining me this evening. If you're interested in reading some of the textual work, you can find it at scribblersfantasticalworkshop.wordpress.com. I'll go ahead and leave you all a link. Thank you for joining me this evening, and have a pleasant night.